Most of what we talk about on this channel is investing in real estate, specifically using a HELOC. And there's many different ways to invest in real estate when using a HELOC, among other things. But there is one way by far that is my favorite. Which way is it? Keep watching and let's get to it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you did not already know, my name is Jay Costa. I'm a real estate investor, agent, and builder here in Northern New Jersey. And if you get value out of this video after watching, make sure you watch first. But after watching, if you get value, please smash that like button down below and also consider subscribing, because we are building a tight-knit community here of like-minded individuals, like I said, looking to build wealth in real estate, specifically using a home equity line of credit. So if that interests you, definitely check us out. But in this video, I'm going to go over my favorite way to use a HELOC in order to invest in real estate, and that is house flipping. I'm gonna go over what a HELOC is, what house flipping is, why it is so perfect, in my opinion, to use a HELOC to flip houses. I'll go over what you need to be aware of before getting started, also give you some alternatives, and lastly, help you decide whether or not using a HELOC to do house flips is right for you in your situation. So first things first, before we get started, what is a HELOC? Well, a HELOC stands for Home Equity Line of Credit, and it's basically a revolving credit line based on the equity that you have in your home, most of the time your personal residence. And the idea is to use that equity that is just kind of standing still in your primary residence and using it, borrowing against your house, against your personal property, in order to go build wealth in real estate. Now, what is house flipping? Most people probably already know this, but just in case you don't, it's basically when you buy a piece of property that needs a lot of work, put renovation and rehab into that property, and speculatively go sell it for a profit. Now, why do I think that using a HELOC in order to flip houses is so perfect? Well, I think it really comes down to my 4 main rules for using a HELOC to invest in real estate. If you haven't checked that out, I've made a couple videos. I'll put a link in the description box down below, as well as up in the corner here if you want to learn more. My number 1 rule for HELOC usage to invest in real estate is that it must be short term. Number 2 is that you must have a clear exit strategy in place. Number 3, you must not over leverage and take money out of your HELOC without any way to pay it back. And lastly, you only should be using your HELOC for something that either makes or saves you money. And as you can see, if you know anything about house flipping, all 4 of those rules are satisfied when you flip a house. First, house flipping is by nature short term. The idea is to buy it, renovate it, and sell it as quickly as possible. So first rule, check. Now, the second is you must have a clear exit strategy in place. And of course, once again, by nature, flipping houses has a built-in exit strategy when you sell the property. That is the exit strategy. You buy the property, you rehab it, you sell it, you take that money from the sale and you go pay off the HELOC balance. There's your exit strategy right there. Number 3 is over leveraging. This is more a question for you in different situations and things, but some people think that this is way too conservative for most people. A lot of people in the comment section down below. By the way, if you haven't been in the comment section, it's wild down there. If you have questions or anything, would love to start a conversation, definitely check us out down there. But a lot of people in that comment section say, hey Jay, if I had the money already to go buy a house to flip, I wouldn't need the HELOC. Why do you think I need the HELOC? Yeah, I understand totally. Everyone is in different situations. Everyone has different risk tolerances at different stages of their life, depending on who's dependent on them or not. But me personally, someone who has a family living in my house with me, I would never put my single family house, my personal residence, up on the chopping block in order to make a buck. My family lives here. I would never take money out of the HELOC in this property, okay, that I don't have somewhere else to pay it back in a worst case scenario. You always need to be super cautious of over leveraging and plan on a worst case scenario. I know if you watch a lot of YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, real estate gurus out there, they make flipping houses and real estate investing in general super kind of like easy, but trust me, it's not easy. You don't always make tens and hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars investing in real estate. Sometimes you lose money, sometimes you lose a lot of money, and you need to be prepared for that because it can and will happen eventually. You need to ask yourself this main question. If somehow the project goes wrong or bad in some way, and you go to sell the property and you come out underwater, you don't have enough to pay off that HELOC balance, are you okay with that? And do you have a plan on finding the money elsewhere to pay it off? If you have the money elsewhere, you can get started right now because you're in a good situation and you're planning on a worst case scenario where you're coming up short in regards to paying off the HELOC, right? But if you don't have a plan on paying off that HELOC, you need to figure it out because, like I said, worst case scenario is going to happen eventually, whether it's now or in the future if you keep doing this. So if you don't have the money to pay off the HELOC, if you're underwater on it, you got to think of a couple different ways maybe to solve the problem. My first thought would be, can you potentially do a cash out refinance on the property and turn it into a long-term rental property? If you can, and the numbers make sense, go ahead. Lastly, and I've thought of this as well, I haven't actually gone through with it, thank God, but I haven't been in that situation. But let's say worst case scenario happens and you're way underwater on paying off that HELOC balance. Can you potentially, once again, do cash out refinance and move into the property yourself? Live there for a handful of years and hopefully sell it in the future if you want to or need to. These are all different options you can take just in case you don't have that extra money to pay off the HELOC balance if you come up short. And like I said, these things can and do happen all the time. You could buy a property and then right after, before you sell the house, the market can take a complete nosedive, and all of a sudden the comps that you're looking at resale wise are 100 grand less than before. That does happen. I know everyone thinks that real estate does nothing but go up, but that's not entirely the case. It's a market just like everything else. And before getting started, you need to ask yourself these questions to figure out the risk tolerance that you're comfortable with depending on your situation. So let's say you ask yourself these questions and don't have a way to get out of the HELOC, paying off the HELOC balance in a worst case scenario if you come up short. What are some alternatives to a HELOC that you could use to fund your flipping project? Well, first and foremost, I would look into hard money lenders. Hard money lenders are probably the most common way, other than like cash or something, to fund a flip project. And the reason is, yeah, they're generally higher interest rate projects, but the reason that they're so popular is a couple different reasons. Number one, they're totally dependent and focused on the subject property, meaning there's no lien on your primary residence, which is key. Second, you could also, a lot of the time, roll the cost of the rehab, of the renovation costs, into the actual loan. That way you're out of pocket not that much. It funds the entire project from beginning to end. And the hard money lenders actually, in my experience, turn out to be a little bit of partners with you in the project because they do have experience doing these flipping deals and funding these flipping deals and getting out of tight spots in case you find yourself in one. Next would be to find yourself partnerships to do a flip project with. Many people, just scoff at the idea of getting a partner, thinking they have a big ego. They say, hey, I could do it myself. Why would I split the profits 50-50 or whatever ratio that you have, depending on how many partners you have? Trust me on this one. I've learned this myself. Partnerships are invaluable if you have the right partner. A bad partner can ruin a deal and ruin a relationship, but good partners, preferably ones that have experience in construction, in funding, in renovation, these are invaluable partnerships to have. Not only does it reduce your risk and reduce your stress level, it also reduces, honestly, the amount of money that you actually need to come up with, and it reduces the amount of time and energy you need to put into the property. So do not scoff at the idea of bringing a partner on, especially on your first couple flips, until you get your feet under yourself and, get relationships with subs, relationships with lenders, and then maybe in the future, once you build up a little bit of capital, you can start doing it yourself. But definitely look into partnerships on your first couple flip projects. Now, after asking yourself all of these questions, figuring out your risk tolerances, figuring out what your plan would be in a worst case scenario, is flipping with a HELOC right for you? Well, the first question I would ask is whether flipping at all is right for you. Is this something that you want to get into? Is it just going to be like a side deal, a side hustle that you want to get started? Or are you very serious and motivated to start a house flipping business? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know subcontractors that you could trust already? Do you have relationships with them? How much about renovation and construction construction do you know? How much about the actual market do you know? Can you go find comps yourself, or do you need to find a real estate agent to go do it for you? These are all questions that you need to ask yourself before getting started to determine your risk tolerance as well as your knowledge on the subject. Once you figure out whether or not house flipping is right for you, then you can move on to whether or not you should use the equity in your home. So let's say you made a decision that, okay, house flipping is right for me and I want to get started and I have some equity in my house. Should you use your HELOC to fund that first flip deal? Well, the first question you should ask yourself, yet again, is do you have money elsewhere in order to pay off the HELOC balance just in case you come up short? If you have it, and you're okay with spending it, let's say it's in a retirement account, if you want to lose that retirement account in order to pay off a bad deal, if you're okay with that, go do it. Get started. There's only one way to learn, and it's actually doing it. But if you don't have the money elsewhere to pay off that HELOC balance, you need a plan ASAP. And if you don't have a plan, do not do it. And look into alternatives like a hard money lender or partnerships that can help you at least for the first few projects that you have. That's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Is house flipping a good way to make money in general to invest in real estate? Is using your HELOC on a house flip a good idea or not? Or would you rather pay a little bit more interest-wise, maybe a little bit more closing cost-wise, pay a couple points or whatever in order to keep your primary residence free and clear of any liability? That is a good question to ask yourself before getting started. And like I said, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you like this content, you will love the custom playlist that I have set up based on real estate investing. I'll put a link in the description box as well as up in the corner right now. So definitely check that out if you have not already. I appreciate it once again. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.